All right, guys, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do some polynomial division. So to kind of refresh what we've been doing, we are going to do basic division by a single term right now. And I know you might be thinking, well, I've already done polynomial division, but what we've done has been by a monomial. And now what we're going to do today is we're going to bring in like the binomial part of it, okay? So, for example, if you would recall for me this statement where you have a trinomial divided by a monomial, we know that we would actually rewrite this problem to be divided, or everything to be divided by the 4x, all right? And when we get everything divided by the 4x, we can then just start playing cleanup. So I can take and look at this as 8 divided by 4, and that gives me 2. There are 3 x's on the top and 1 x on the bottom, so that leaves me with x squared, or 2 x's left. And then I've got 12 divided by 4, which is 3. Notice that my sign just dropped down to the bottom. 2 x's on the top, 1 x on the bottom, so that leaves me 1 x left, okay, because I can cancel out 1. And then finally, I've got the 16 over 4, which gives me 4. 1 x on the top, 1 x on the bottom. They both cancel out, so I'm left with nothing. So then my final answer would look something like this. 2x squared minus 3x plus 4, okay? And again, doing the exact same thing, I could do 10y to the third over 5y plus 20y squared over 5y plus 55y over 5y, all right? So I have the 10 divided by 5, which is 2, y to the third over y to the first, 3 y's on the top, 1 y on the bottom, one of them would cancel out, and I'm left with the y squared, plus 20 divided by 5, which is 4, 2 y's on the top, 1 y on the bottom, so that would leave me with 1. 55 divided by 5 is 11, and again, these y's would cancel. So my final answer would look like this, the 2y squared plus 4y plus 11. Okay, so that's just the basic division concept as we've seen before. What we're going to do now is we're going to take and we're going to focus on dividing by binomial. So what we're going to do is we're going to use actually a reverse multiplication, okay, or we're doing a reverse box method. All right, and when we do reverse box method, we focus on a couple of things. The first thing that we look at is we are going to take and we're going to put our divisor outside of the box, okay? So our divisor, remember, is what's at the door of the house, essentially, when you're thinking about a division problem. And that would be, in this case, the x plus 2, all right? So this is my divisor, okay? And then this then is my dividend. Okay, and then what I'm trying to figure out is the quotient, right? I'm trying to figure out the answer to the problem. So in step 2, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and create my normal box, okay? And I'm going to have my divisor outside, so that's the x and the 2. In step 2, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the first and third terms of the trinomial. Okay, so if I'm looking at my first and my third term, well, that means I'm looking at, in this case, the x squared, and I'm looking at the negative 10. All right, and that's going to come into play. From here, what I'm going to do for step 3 is I'm going to put the first term in the upper left box, And this is like a, step 3, step 4 kind of thing. And then I'm going to take and put the third term, or the last term, in the lower right box, okay? And then for my last step, I'm simply just going to solve it out, okay? So I'm going to put, according to my statement, I'm going to put this x squared in this top box right here, so that goes on the inside. I'm going to put the negative 10 in this bottom right box, okay? And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply work backwards, all right? And when I work backwards, what I have to figure out is what would I put up here to solve the inside, okay? So for example, x times what would give me x squared? Well, I know that that's just x, because x times x is x squared, all right? Then I would say, all right, well, 2 times x would be 2x. That would fill in that box right there. Now what I've got to figure out is, all right, 2 times what would give me negative 10? Well, 2 times negative 5 would be negative 10, all right? So that means that when I multiply this part out, I would have a negative 5x. And if I check my work, okay, with those being my like terms, I find that negative 5 and positive 2 make negative 3x, okay? So my final answer would be what I have up here in the box, which would be x minus 5, and that would be my final answer for the problem, okay? If I wanted to go back and check myself, I could easily go back and rebox this out, and then when I get my terms inside, combine my like terms together, and I should end up with the dividend that I initially started with, okay? So in a problem like number 2, I do the same thing, all right? Remember, at any time during the video, pause it so that way you can try it yourself, fast forward, do whatever you need to do, all right? So when I create my box, my divisor in this case is this 6x plus 1. So I got a 6x and a positive 1 outside. Again, I need to focus on my first and my last term. So I'm going to focus on the 12x squared and the negative 11. So the 12x squared goes in the first box. The negative 11 goes into the second. Okay, so knowing what I know, 6 times 2 would give me 12. X times x would give me x squared, okay? Now, 1 times something would give me negative 11. Well, that would be 1 times negative 11 would give me negative 11. And then I can play cleanup in the remainder of the box just to see if I've got the rest of the answer right, okay? So that would be 6 times negative 11, or 6x times negative 11, which would give me negative 66x. And 1 times 2x is 2x. When I check to see if I got it correct, negative 66 plus 2 is negative 64. So my correct answer is 2x minus 11. Okay? Same thing on number 3. All right? Number 3 is exact same idea. It's set up as an actual division problem, but I still know that this is my divisor, okay, and these within it are the dividend, okay? So I'm going to set up the box like I usually do. I'm going to have the n and the 5 on the outside, and then on the inside top left I'm going to do n squared, and bottom right I'm going to put the 10. Okay, so n times what would give me n squared? Well, that would be n. And then 5 times something gives me 10, and that would be 2. So I've got n times 2 is 2n, 5 times n is 5n. If I combine those two together, 5 plus 2 is 7. So I find that my correct answer is n plus 2. Okay. Same thing on number 4. Right, so now we're just kind of actually just getting into the actual practice of it now. Okay. I've got a d and a 1. On the inside would be d squared and positive 3. So d times something gives me d squared. Well, that would be d, right? Because I know my exponent rules. If I've got a d on the bottom and 2 d's on the top, I'm left with a d. 1 times something gives me 3, and that would be 3, or 3 divided by 1. All right, so let's see. So that would be 3d to fill in there, and 1d to fill in here. Combine the terms together. 3 plus 1 is 4, so I got it right. So our answer is d plus 3. Okay? Again, at any time, try these on your own, see how you do. Okay? So, got the t and the 5 on the outside, the 2t squared, and the positive 15 on the inside. Okay? So, 2 divided by 1 is 2. T squared divided by t is t, because I'd have 2 t's on the top and 1 t on the bottom. All right, 15 divided by 5 is 3. So that would give me 3t, and 5t times 2t would give me 10t. These two would combine together. 10 plus 3 is 13, and that's what I have there. So 2t plus 3 is my correct answer. Okay? Now, on a problem like number 6, I do not have a trinomial, but what I can assume is that this is really the same thing as 4g squared plus 0g minus 9, and that's being divided by 2g plus 3. So I can still do the exact same method that I'm used to doing, all right, but since there's no center term right here, what these two are going to add up to be is going to be 0, okay? So I've got a 2g and I've got a 3. 4g squared, right, goes in the first box, negative 9 in the second box. 4 divided by 2 is 2. G squared divided by g is g. And negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So check yourself to go backwards and make sure you get a 0g to sum up in these center two boxes. So that would be negative 3 times 2 is negative 6g, and 3 times positive 2 is positive 6g. So negative 6 and positive 6 would cancel out, and I'm left with that 4g squared minus 9. So my final answer would be what I've got on the top, right? That 2g minus 3. And that's how you solve polynomial division with the box method.